12 warriors fought for the Apache's hand, but she pointed to the rancher. The land where the Apache people lived was wide and open, shaped by wind, sun, and long memory. It was a place where every hill had a story and every path was known by heart. Life there moved with the seasons. People rose with the light, worked with purpose, and rested when the sky darkened. In the center of this land lived a young Apache woman whom many noticed, not because she tried to be seen, but because her presence carried quiet strength. She had grown up learning many skills. As a child, she followed the older women and learned how to prepare food, care for the sick, and read signs in nature. From the elders, she learned when to speak and when silence held more meaning. She listened more than she talked, and when she did speak, her words were clear and thoughtful. People trusted her judgment, even those much older than her. She did not rush decisions, and she did not let pride guide her. Her beauty was simple, not loud or decorated. It came from the way she stood straight, the way her eyes watched the world carefully, and the calm way she handled problems. Many noticed her early on, but as she grew older, the attention became stronger. Warriors began to look at her not only as a woman, but as someone who could bring balance and wisdom into a household. Among the Apache, partnership was not just about sharing life, but about strengthening the future. 12 warriors eventually made their interest known. Each one was respected in his own way. Some were known for their endurance, others for leadership, and some for their loyalty to the people. None of them were careless men. They trained hard, served the community, and followed tradition. When word spread that all 12 wished to marry the same woman, it became a topic spoken about in every circle. People wondered how such a choice could be made without causing harm. The woman herself did not rush to respond. She continued her daily life as usual. She helped prepare meals, cared for children, and worked alongside others. She watched the warriors not when they showed their strength, but when they thought no one was watching. She noticed who listened to elders, who treated others with patience, and who showed kindness without being asked. Her mind was always working, quietly measuring character rather than skill. While the tribe focused on this growing situation, something else was happening at the edge of their land. A rancher had settled not far from the Apache territory. He was not a loud man, nor did he arrive with grand plans. He built a small home and worked the land carefully. He did not push fences too far or claim more than he needed. He stayed aware of boundaries and showed respect by keeping distance. At first, the Apache watched him closely. Outsiders had not always brought good changes in the past, but this man behaved differently. He did not stare or try to interfere. When he crossed paths with Apache members, he nodded politely and moved on. If he was spoken to, he answered with honesty and kept his words short. He learned quickly when to step back. The woman noticed him during one of her trips near the edge of the land. She saw him repairing a broken fence after a storm, working alone under the sun. He looked tired, but he did not complain. When their eyes met briefly, he did not smile or try to speak. He simply nodded, as if acknowledging her presence without claiming it. That moment stayed with her longer than she expected. Over time, the rancher became part of quiet moments shared between the two worlds. During a harsh season when food became scarce, he left supplies near the edge of the Apache land. He did not announce it or ask for thanks. The elders discussed it carefully, suspicious at first, but they could not deny that his actions helped families through difficult days. Still, they reminded everyone to stay alert and cautious. The 12 warriors continued to prepare themselves. They trained harder, offered service more openly, and tried to stand out. Some grew impatient, believing their effort should be rewarded quickly. Others became competitive, comparing themselves constantly. The woman saw these changes clearly. She felt the weight of their expectations, yet she did not feel pressured to choose quickly. Her life was her own, and she understood the responsibility that came with any decision. The elders began to speak about tradition. They discussed how such a choice should be handled, knowing that selecting one warrior could upset the others. It was suggested that trials be held later to give each man a fair chance. The idea seemed reasonable and most agreed. Still, no final decision was made yet. This was only the beginning. The woman felt the eyes of the community on her more each day. Children whispered, adults exchanged looks, and even close friends waited for signs in her behavior, yet she remained steady. At night she sat alone sometimes, listening to the wind move through the land. She thought about what kind of life she wanted. She did not dream of power or praise. She wanted peace, partnership, and respect. She also thought about the rancher, though she did not speak of him to anyone. It was not romantic thought yet, but curiosity mixed with admiration. He asked for nothing, expected nothing, and still acted with care. In a world where many proved themselves loudly, his quiet nature stood apart. As days passed, the land itself seemed to hold its breath. The warriors waited. The elders planned. The rancher continued his work. And the woman walked her path calmly, knowing that soon she would be asked to step forward. She did not know how the future would unfold, but she trusted her understanding of people and her own heart. What no one yet realized was that the choice ahead would not follow expectation. It would not be shaped by tradition alone, nor by strength on display. It would come from something deeper, something quieter, and something that would change how everyone looked at courage and belonging. When the elders finally spoke, the whole community listened. Their voices were calm, but the message carried weight. They said that such an important decision could not be rushed or handled by emotion alone. If 12 warriors wished to seek the same woman's hand, then each must show not only strength, but character. The elders announced that a series of trials would be held over time. These trials would test patience, service, honesty, and commitment to the people. It was not meant to create enemies, but to reveal true nature. The warriors accepted the decision with mixed feelings. Some felt confident, believing their past actions already proved their worth. Others felt nervous, knowing that effort alone might not be enough. Still, none refused. Among the Apache, refusing such a call would bring shame, not honor. Preparations began quietly. No loud celebration followed the announcement. Instead, a serious mood settled over the camp. The woman listened to the elders without speaking. She respected their role, but she also knew that no trial could fully measure a heart. Still, she understood that the process might help everyone see more clearly. She continued her daily duties, though now every small action felt watched. She reminded herself to stay focused and calm. The first trial was not about physical strength. The elders asked the warriors to serve the people for several weeks. They were assigned tasks that brought no praise. Some cared for the elderly, some repaired shelters, and others gathered supplies far from camp. The work was tiring and often unnoticed. It tested patience more than skill. At first, the warriors worked with strong energy. They woke early and stayed late, hoping their efforts would be seen. But as days passed, their true feelings began to show. A few became frustrated when their work went unnoticed. One complained quietly that his effort deserved more respect. Another rushed his task, caring more about finishing than doing it well. Others showed a different side. One warrior stayed late with an elder who moved slowly, never showing annoyance. Another repaired a shelter twice when the first fix did not hold, without telling anyone. These moments did not go unseen by the woman. She observed from a distance, noticing who remained kind when no reward followed. The second trial came later and focused on cooperation. The warriors were grouped and asked to work together on a shared task. This was difficult as pride often stood in the way. Some tried to lead forcefully, unwilling to listen. Arguments rose and progress slowed. In one group, tension grew so strong that the task nearly failed. In another group, something different happened. One warrior stepped back, letting others speak. He listened, suggested calmly, and kept the group focused. The task was completed smoothly. Again, the woman noticed. Leadership, she believed, was not about control but about balance. During this time, the rancher remained outside the process. He was not invited, nor did he expect to be. He continued his work as usual, but his quiet presence became more noticeable. One day, after heavy rain damaged paths near the Apache land, he repaired a crossing without being asked. He left no sign of his work. People simply found the path usable again. Some of the Apache began to speak about him in low voices. Opinions were mixed. A few felt uneasy, reminding others that outsiders could not be fully trusted. Others pointed out his consistent respect and helpful actions. The elders listened but made no comment. The woman crossed paths with the rancher again during this period. This time he spoke first, offering a simple greeting. He did not mention the trials or the attention surrounding her. He asked only if the land had recovered from the rain. Their conversation was short and calm. When it ended, she felt an unexpected sense of ease. As the trials continued, the warriors grew tired. Fatigue revealed truth more clearly than effort. One warrior, once admired for his strength, began to show anger when things did not go his way. Another became distant, avoiding tasks that did not bring recognition. These changes did not go unnoticed by the community. The woman felt a quiet sadness watching this. She respected the warriors and understood the pressure they carried. Still, she could not ignore what she saw. She wanted a partner who would walk beside her, not ahead of her, not behind her, but with her. The final trial approached, focusing on endurance and responsibility. The warriors were sent on long journeys to gather needed resources. They were required to return on time and share equally. Some pushed too hard, injuring themselves. Others rushed, forgetting important supplies. A few returned late, offering excuses instead of accountability. When the warriors returned, the camp gathered again. The elders thanked them for their efforts and announced that they would soon discuss the outcome. No decision was shared yet. The waiting began again. The woman felt the weight of what was coming. She knew that whatever happened next would shape many lives, not just her own. She spent time with her thoughts, walking the familiar paths of her childhood. She thought about the meaning of partnership, about respect, and about the quiet actions that often mattered most. She thought again of the rancher. He had not competed, not spoken loudly, not tried to impress. Yet his presence had remained steady through every season. He had shown care without demand. This difference stayed with her. As the sun set one evening, the camp rested in silence. The warriors waited, the elders prepared, and the woman stood at the center of many unspoken hopes. What lay ahead would test tradition, pride, and understanding. And though no one knew it yet, the next step would change the story they thought they understood. The day everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. The air felt heavy, as if the land itself knew something important was about to happen. People gathered early, sitting in quiet circles. No one laughed loudly. No children ran freely as they usually did. Even the wind seemed softer that morning. The elders took their places first. Their faces showed calm but also deep thought. They had watched everything closely. They had seen effort, failure, patience, and pride. Now it was time to speak. The warriors stood in a line, each one steady on the outside, though many carried worry inside. This moment mattered to them, not only because of the woman, but because their honor felt tied to the outcome. The woman stood slightly apart. She wore simple clothing, nothing meant to draw attention. Her heart beat steadily, not fast, not slow. She felt ready, even though she knew what she planned to do would surprise many. She reminded herself to breathe and stay true to what she believed. One elder stepped forward and spoke about the trials. He did not name winners or failures. Instead, he spoke about what the trials were meant to show. He said strength was useful, but character shaped the future. He said leadership was not about being followed, but about caring for others. His words were calm, but they carried meaning that reached everyone present. Then the elder said something unexpected. He said the trials were complete, but the final choice did not belong to them alone. He turned toward the woman and said that her voice mattered most. A soft murmur moved through the crowd. This was not common, but it was not forbidden either. Still, many had assumed the elders would decide. The woman stepped forward slowly. Every eye followed her. She felt the weight of their expectations, but she did not let it stop her. She spoke clearly, using simple words so everyone could understand. She thanked the elders for their guidance and the warriors for their effort. She said she respected each one of them. She spoke about the trials and what they revealed. She did not point out failures or shame anyone. Instead, she spoke about what she had learned by watching quietly. She said she had learned that strength could protect, but it could also divide. She said pride could push people forward, but it could also blind them. She spoke about kindness, patience, and respect. Some warriors lowered their eyes as they listened. Others stood stiff, unsure where her words were leading. Then she paused. The silence grew thick. Everyone waited for her to name one of the warriors. Some had already chosen favorites in their minds. Some were sure the strongest would be chosen. Others believed leadership would decide. Instead, she turned her body slightly and raised her hand. She did not point to any of the 12 warriors. She pointed beyond them, toward the edge of the gathering. She pointed to the rancher. For a moment, no one spoke. It felt as if time itself had stopped. Then voices rose all at once. Shock spread across faces. Some people stood up quickly. Others whispered in disbelief. The warriors turned sharply, their expressions filled with confusion and anger. The rancher froze where he stood. He had not expected to be noticed, let alone chosen. His face showed surprise, not pride. He did not step forward or smile. He simply stood still, unsure if he had understood correctly. The elders exchanged looks. This choice had not been discussed. It broke expectation but not law. Still, the reaction around them was strong. One warrior stepped forward, his voice raised. He questioned how an outsider could be chosen over those who had given their lives to the people. Another warrior followed, speaking about tradition and sacrifice. Others remained silent, their expressions hard. The air grew tense. The woman listened without interrupting. When the voices quieted, she spoke again. She said she did not choose lightly. She said she had watched the warriors closely and respected their service. But she said she also watched how people treated others when no one was watching. She spoke about actions done without demand, about respect shown quietly, and about support given without pride. She said the rancher had never tried to win her favor. He had never competed or demanded attention. He had respected boundaries and helped without asking for reward. She said that kind of character mattered deeply to her. The rancher finally stepped forward, slowly and carefully. He did not argue or defend himself. He spoke only to say that he had never intended to cause division. He said if his presence caused harm, he would step away. His voice was calm, not proud. This response changed the mood slightly. Some anger softened into confusion. The elders watched closely. One elder raised his hand for silence. He spoke about choice and responsibility. He said that courage sometimes meant standing alone. He said tradition guided them, but it did not erase personal truth. Still, the decision did not end the conflict. Some warriors felt deeply wounded. They believed their effort had been dismissed. A few turned away, unable to watch anymore. Others stayed, their faces tight with emotion. The woman felt the weight of their pain. She did not take joy in it, but she knew honesty mattered more than comfort. She stepped closer to the rancher, not touching him but standing beside him. This simple action spoke loudly. The gathering ended without celebration. People left quietly, carrying many thoughts with them. That night, the camp felt divided. Some families spoke in support of her courage. Others worried about what this choice might bring. The rancher returned to his land, unsure what would happen next. He felt concern, not victory. He wondered if he had stepped into something too heavy, but he also felt respect for the woman's honesty and strength. The woman spent the night awake, listening to distant sounds. She knew the hardest part was not the choice itself, but what would follow. Trust would be tested. Patience would be needed. She reminded herself why she chose as she did. By morning, nothing felt the same. The land was unchanged, but the people were not. The path ahead would not be easy, and acceptance would not come quickly. But a choice had been made, one rooted not in display, but in quiet truth. And though many could not yet see it, this moment marked the beginning of a different kind of journey, one that would challenge old ideas and slowly reshape understanding in ways no trial ever could. After the gathering ended, life did not return to normal. The days that followed felt heavy, as if every step carried more weight than before. People spoke less in open spaces and more in quiet corners. Eyes followed the woman and the rancher wherever they went, not with curiosity alone, but with judgment, worry, and unanswered questions. The woman felt the change immediately. Some who once greeted her warmly now nodded from a distance. Others avoided her eyes altogether. A few spoke to her as before, offering support in gentle ways, but even they carried concern in their voices. She understood their fear. Her choice had stepped outside what most expected, and change always frightened people before it made sense. The warriors felt the change most deeply. For some, anger burned close to the surface. They felt rejected, not just by the woman, but by the meaning they had attached to the trials. A few believed their effort had been ignored. One or two spoke openly, saying the choice weakened tradition. Others kept their feelings inside, but their silence was sharp. The elders met often during this time. They spoke calmly, reminding people that no rule had been broken. Still, they also understood that harmony mattered. They decided to watch carefully rather than interfere too quickly. Sometimes, letting emotions settle was better than forcing agreement. The rancher felt the distance too. When he rode near the Apache land, conversation stopped. He did not blame anyone. He had stepped into a world that was not his by birth, and he knew trust could not be demanded. He continued his work as always, fixing tools, caring for animals, and tending the land. He did not try to prove himself or explain his actions. He believed time would speak better than words. One afternoon, a small problem tested everyone. A group of children wandered farther than they should have while gathering plants. When the sun lowered and they had not returned, worry spread quickly. People searched along familiar paths, calling out names. As the hours passed, fear grew. The rancher, hearing the concern, joined the search without being asked. He knew the land well and followed tracks calmly. He did not lead, but he shared what he noticed. Eventually, the children were found resting near a dry stream, tired but safe. When they were brought back, relief spread through the camp. No one thanked the rancher loudly. Still, some noticed his quiet help. A few elders nodded to him in acknowledgement. Small moments like this began to soften sharp edges, even if only slightly. The woman stayed close to her people during this time. She did not hide or withdraw. She continued her duties, helping where needed, listening more than speaking. When someone spoke to her with anger, she did not argue. She listened patiently, even when words hurt. She believed that understanding could not grow where pride stood in the way. At times, the weight felt heavy. Late at night, she questioned herself. She wondered if she had caused too much pain. But each time doubt rose, she returned to the reason behind her choice. She wanted a life built on respect, not expectation. She wanted partnership, not position. The rancher and the woman did not rush into closeness. They spoke often but carefully. They shared thoughts about the land, about responsibility, and about patience. They did not promise an easy future to each other. Instead, they promised honesty. That promise became a quiet foundation. Not all warriors stayed angry. One by one, some began to step back from their resentment. A few realized that the trials had shown them things about themselves they had not wanted to see. One warrior apologized to an elder for his behavior during the cooperation task. Another chose to leave the area for a time, seeking clarity elsewhere. There were still moments of tension. Once, harsh words were spoken during a gathering. The woman stood firm, speaking calmly, reminding everyone that respect must guide speech, even in disagreement. Her steadiness earned quiet respect, even from those who disagreed with her choice. The seasons changed slowly. With time, the sharpness of anger dulled. Life demanded attention again. Crops needed care. Shelters needed repair. Children needed guidance. In these daily tasks, people found purpose beyond their hurt. The rancher continued to show respect in simple ways. He learned more about Apache customs, asking questions only when invited. He listened to elders and followed guidance. He never tried to lead or influence decisions. This humility surprised many. One evening, during a shared gathering near the edge of the land, the woman and the rancher sat among others, not apart. The conversation was quiet but peaceful. No one made a scene. It was a small moment but meaningful. The woman noticed these changes and felt hope grow slowly. She knew acceptance would not arrive suddenly. It would come in pieces, through actions repeated over time. Still, not everyone accepted the change. A few warriors remained distant, holding onto their hurt. The woman respected their space. She believed healing could not be forced. As time passed, people began to see that her choice had not weakened the community. It had challenged it, yes, but challenge often brought growth. The land remained strong. The people remained united in work, even if their thoughts differed. The woman and the rancher stood together quietly, not claiming victory, not demanding approval. They understood that true belonging was earned day by day. Though the path ahead was still uncertain, the storm that followed her choice had begun to settle. What remained was the slow work of trust, patience, and shared effort. And in that work, something new was quietly taking shape. Time moved forward, steady and patient, just like the land itself. What once felt tense slowly became familiar. The choice that had divided people no longer filled every conversation. Life, with all its daily needs, had a way of teaching people what truly mattered. The woman grew into her role naturally. She did not try to change her people or push new ideas too quickly. She listened, learned, and spoke only when her words could help. Over time, many noticed that her calm presence brought balance. When disagreements rose, she encouraged quiet discussion instead of sharp words. When someone felt overlooked, she made space for them to be heard. The rancher continued to live simply. He never acted as if he had won something. Instead, he treated the relationship as a shared responsibility. He worked beside others when help was needed and stepped back when guidance was not asked for. His respect for boundaries remained unchanged, and that consistency slowly built trust. Children were the first to accept him fully. They judged people by actions, not history. They followed him as he worked, asked questions, and laughed easily around him. Parents noticed this and began to relax. A person trusted by children often carried a good heart. As seasons passed, the woman became a bridge between two ways of life. She helped her people understand changes happening around them without fear. She also helped the rancher understand traditions deeply, not as rules, but as values shaped by long memory. Neither world lost itself because of her. Instead, both learned how to stand side by side. Some of the warriors who once felt anger found new paths. One became a guide for younger men, teaching patience and responsibility. Another focused on caring for elders, finding pride in service rather than recognition. A few chose to travel, carrying lessons learned into the wider world. Their lives did not end with rejection. They simply changed direction. The elders watched all of this quietly. In time, they spoke openly about the woman's choice. One elder said that tradition was meant to protect people, not silence them. Another said that strength came in many forms, and wisdom was knowing which kind was needed. Their words helped heal what still felt fragile. The woman and the rancher eventually built a shared life rooted in mutual respect. They faced challenges, misunderstandings, and moments of doubt like any partnership, but they spoke openly and listened carefully. Neither tried to control the other. They understood that walking together did not mean losing oneself. Years later, the story of the 12 warriors was told differently. It was no longer spoken with anger or shame. It became a lesson shared with younger generations. Elders explained that courage was not always loud. Sometimes it was quiet and steady. Sometimes it meant choosing honesty over approval. The land remained wide and open, holding the memory of everything that had passed. The people continued their lives, shaped not by one decision alone, but by how they responded to it. In time, the choice that once caused division became a symbol of growth. The woman often walked familiar paths, reflecting on how far everything had come. She knew the journey had not been easy, but she did not regret it. Her life had been shaped by her own voice, and that gave her peace. The rancher stood beside her, not as someone who replaced others, but as someone who earned his place through patience and respect. Together, they showed that belonging was not about where one started, but how one chose to live. And so, the story ended not with victory or loss, but with understanding. The people learned that real strength was found not in competition, but in character. Not in demand, but in choice. And the land, as always, watched quietly, holding every truth within it.